Yo, welcome to the channel. So today we are going to be testing this new rewire that we've done. We've done a whole property renovation and we're going to go through some of the testing. So we're not going to do the entire range because you're going to get the basic gist of it. We're going to do a ring circuit, a radial circuit and some RCBO testing. So strap yourself in, get yourself a brew and let's get this cover off. Before I go too far, I suppose I better go through some of the equipment you're going to need. Now, we have got our MFT, so our multi-function tester. We use the Mega, or have used the Mega since pretty much I started. And it's something that you get used to and you continue with it, no doubt. So we need a lockout device because we can't trust anybody, and make sure you don't trust anybody. So we need to lock off the supply to the board because you're going to be working in there and you don't want it working live. You need a radio because it is boring when you're just doing testing on your own. So you need to make sure you have your radio on. That is probably one of the most important bits of kit. Various different hand tools you're going to need to undo the accessories, also to undo the cables inside the RCBOs. Torch you're going to need. I generally set myself up with a bit of a workbench. This one it wasn't very expensive. I think it was on an online retailer that delivers to you the very next day. You're also going to need a set of steps, not those ones that are there, but you're going to need some proper steps to get to your light accessories. Also, you're going to need a wandering lead. So 2 seconds, I'm going to show you what that is. Right, said wandering lead. So the wandering lead is so you can do one or two things. So if you were doing your lighting circuit and you want to just do an R2 test, which is more than fine to do that, you can use the wandering lead to go around and do your various checks. Now I tend to find I use the wandering lead more for when I'm doing any ICR rather than what we're doing today. Also, you can verify your earth bonding as well by using your wandering lead. Mine, the ohms resistance, now you need to make sure you null that out, which is really important. Now, mine runs at about 100 ohms, so I roughly know where we're at anyway, but generally, which I've done it before, let's be honest, it's a real world sparky, this is, that I've pressed the null for some stupid reason, and obviously I've unnulled it, so I know what calculation we're going to. That being said, we're going to get this board cover off. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else quickly that we need. And I think that's pretty much it. So let's get this board cover and have a little look inside. Oh, nearly forgot. Gonna need an iPad or some form of making sure that you can fill in your certification. Now, you could use the paper version, but most places now want you to use digital. So I use, it's iCertify. I've been using that for years. It's not sponsored by them. It's just the software that was recommended to me and I've picked it up and ran with it. Stupidly, like normal, I forget to charge the iPad, so which is what I've done now, and I've now got it sitting on a power bank charging up, so I'm going to plug that back in. Right, hold on. One of the other vital bits of kit which I should have mentioned a second ago is actually a voltage indicator. Now that probably, in fairness, is probably one of the most important bits of kit, and also a way of making sure that you know that this is actually doing its job by using a proving unit. Now obviously if you are registered, which you should be registered with the NIC or NAPIT or another regulating body, without these it is an automatic failure. So one thing you need to make sure is obviously that your tester is doing exactly what it's saying it's doing. So this one goes through the range all the way from 50 volts, 110 volts, 230, 400 to 690 volts. Now, without doing that, when you're doing this next test, which we will do together, so I'd just like to point out that just inside the meter cupboard it's got a mains isolator, and I've already isolated it off and locked off at source. I can't see around there, so somebody could potentially come and turn that off if you didn't use the lockout devices, and that's the whole point of them. So now we need to verify that there is no voltage coming through. So first and foremost, you need to make sure that your tester is functioning correctly, which mine is. So now I find with the fluke it's quite handy because you can just plug that onto the top like that. So we now need to go across the terminals, and you can see there is nothing coming through from the meter tails down, but you need to verify that once more which you can now see is all lit up. I don't know whether you'll be able to see the actual readings on there. Once more, just to make sure I've got nothing coming through, just to be on the safe side. So we've got nothing coming through, so I can confirm that we have got no voltage coming through to this board, so it means I'm safe to work on it. I haven't got to worry about any potential risk to myself or anybody else that is potentially working on this right now, which is just me anyway. So right, so what we're going to do, we're going to choose a couple of circuits to go through. So we will go with the lounge and the hall ring, which is my first one. So we'll do that. So it's a ring main, so we're going to go through the test procedure of that. So with the cables removed from the board now, first things first, I need to make sure and verify whether it is actually a ring. So essentially the ring main has got a cable, so a live going out, going to each and every socket circuit and then coming back. Hence the reason of it being a ring. So there's the live should be like that, the neutral should be like that, and also the earth, aka CPC. But I'm going to be calling it earth because this is not, you know, it's real world, that's what you do. So this is, at this point, these are called dead tests. So make sure that obviously we've got an actual ring. We should have, so the conductor size for the live and the neutral are the same size, so you should have the same reading coming back. And the earthing cable, I think it's 1.67 times smaller, so it should be a greater result than the live and the neutral. Check me out. So first things first, we need to make sure, because I've just got the tester out of the van, we need to make sure that we null the leads and we haven't got any problems with those whatsoever. So they are now zeroed, so we are good to go. So we'll do our lives now is 0.45, neutrals 0.45, and our earths 0.75. Okay, so that is our end-to-end results. Now this is where I need to enter it into my certificate, because you will never remember this. Some people use a piece of cardboard and write it all down that way, but I wouldn't advise that because you will end up losing it. So we're going to load the iPad up, hopefully I've got enough charge on it, and we can start filling all the details in. Okay, so now we have done our dead testing for the end-to-end, so we've confirmed it is a ring final, ring main. So now what we need to do is cross connect the live. So I've got a live and the earth on this side, live and earth on that side, twist them over and connect them up, and that's what we're going to do by using these. And now by using this socket tester, we can now go round and measure what resistance that is. Now we have to get to every single point, which should be nice and easy in here because it's an empty house. So let's go inside and go and check that out. So it's at this point now where we'll go around the room and counting the number of points, because obviously on the certificate there is a number of points parts. So we have got a socket there, so 1, 2, 3, there's a fuse spur for a fire, which is where you are right now. So that obviously counts because it's part of the ring. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in the hallway 7, 8. So we've got the underfloor heating in the hallway as well. So I've got 8 points, is what I'll need to write down on my certificate. Now the next stage is to go around each and every socket, which will go over here. And what we need to record is our highest value. So at this socket here, I've got 0.2. and we'll go around to the various different ones. So it's important to note that your highest result will more than likely be where you've got a spur. So a spur is obviously where a cable has been taken off of the ring to feed something else. So in this instance, I know that the fire that you have got right behind you is a spur. So my highest result is 0.27, and that is off that spur. So let's go and record that on the certificate. So we've entered that under our certificate, and we're now going on to our next test, which is our insulation resistance test. Now it's important to note that if there is any sensitive equipment, for example, you have got any IT equipment, anything with a little PCB board in it, needs to be disconnected from the circuit, because one, you can damage the equipment, and two, you'll get a false reading. So we haven't got any of that on this situation, so we're going to go straight through. So on initial installation, you should be testing your results at 500 volts. On all testers, they have voltage settings. Now, if this was a full property that was already existing with non-rewire and all the rest of it, and it had stuff plugged into, I always tend to test at 240 volts because it's a safer bet, because if there is something that you can't get to, you won't be able to damage the accessory because you have got the voltage that it's usually running at pumping down the system. So we haven't got that here. It's 500 volts, and let's get to it. Okay, so what we're looking for is a perfect result of 999 mega ohms, which means there is nothing wrong with our live to neutral as it is right now. So we're going to change that over, and we're going to now go to our neutral to earth and do the same test. Again, another 999, and our last test on this would be our earth to live. Okay, so another 999. Now, if you had a result that was coming up sort of 0.18, something like that, it usually means that you've got a fuse spur switched on somewhere and it's running through a little neon, so just be careful of something like that. So on that testing that we've got, I now need to write down on my certificate how many points there are. So there was 8 points I need to write down before I forget, and now I can put that back into the board, and we can energize it and know that it's safe. We're also going to test the RCBO right now. Right, we're on to RCD testing. Now this is a RCBO, so it's basically an RCD and an MCB built into each of the components. So these are all type A RCBOs that we install, so we do need to make sure that we are selecting the right type of RCD that we're testing. So this is selected out of the type A. So it's a 30 milliamp RCBO, so that is obviously what we're testing to. And obviously we can now, there's a lot of obviously's, we can now energize that circuit knowing that it is dead test as safe, and it's safe to do so. So you're going to test it at 1 times its current rating, and I've got a 28.2 milliseconds, which is well within our results, and that's at a 0 degree cycle. So we now need to change it to do the 180 degree cycle and go back and test again. So that is tested out at 38.9 milliseconds, which is miles within the results. Now we have to make sure that you do every type of test on it. So you've got your 0 degrees and 180, and you can do your 5 times testing as well, although it's now only at 1 times results, but I like to do it that way anyway. So my highest result will be 38.9, which is what I'm going to be putting into my test certificate. One last test that you need to make sure you're doing is your functional test. So you've re-energized it, and you press your yellow test button to make sure that that is working to satisfactory conditions. Now you can do this all in one go, and so rattle through right at the end when the lid's on and bang, 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 press all your tests and go that way. But I like to just make sure that you see it all the way through and it's all done. So what I'm now going to do is I'm now going to rattle through a load more of the circuits, get some of those pumped through, and then we're going to jump through for our radial test, which I'll go through in a second. So bear with me while I jump through the rest of the house and get a lot more of the testing done, and we can jump in and get one of these radials done. Okay, so we're going to do our radial test now. So we have chosen the upstairs lights, because I thought that was quite a decent circuit to show you. So one of these leads is called an R1 plus R2 lead, or R1 R2 link. So what you can do is link that out into there, and that will give us our continuity. But so EICRs, things like that, brilliant bit of kit, but obviously for the purpose of the video, what we're going to do is we're going to link it out properly. I'm saying that it's not that it's not properly, it's just that we're going to show you on the video doing it this way. So we're going to use our crocodile leads again, So we're going to link out our live and earth. Now you can also, like I said, you can do your R2 test, which is using the wandering lead, which you just connect it to the earth and then you dot round and various different points, but we're going to do an R1 plus R2. So let's go inside. So now that's linked out, the next thing to do is go and find our last point for the lighting, which I know where it is. It's actually in the front bedroom. So we're going to go straight to there. If I've got a good earth continuity there, it means that all the rest of the lights all the way through, I've got their earth continuity, and we no longer need to do any further testing on that. So let's go into the bedroom. Okay, so we're in the bedroom and it's very echoey, so I apologise. So now I know this is my last point of call. So I've always, on the rewires, things like that, I generally put all the loops to the light switches because I find that actually makes it's easier, less time with your hands above your head, doing all the final connections and things like that. But you don't have to do it that way. You can bring all your loops to the pendant, which is not what we've done. So basically what we now need to do is go back to our resistance. We can get rid of that one, so we don't need that one. So onto there, and I've got nothing there. And the reason why I've got nothing there is because I need the light switch turned on. So we now turn the light switch on and I should get a result of 0.65. So if you can see, when it's doing the noise, it doesn't really work. It doesn't hold the value. Okay, so if you can see just in that corner there, it says previous results of 0.64. Now when you've got the tone on, it doesn't hold that. I don't know why it doesn't, but it does. So if you do know, and you can do that in the settings, then let me know. So that is my maximum result. Now if I didn't have a result there, which would mean I haven't got earth continuity via the other lights. So now I need to write that in my certificate. So if you didn't have that, let's play this scenario out. If you didn't have that result, you need to then start working backwards. And because you know the installation out, but if you didn't, what I generally do is go sort of halfway house. So for here, I would choose one of the other bedrooms. Now bearing in mind the consumer unit is down that way, try and go halfway between the two. And if you've got earth there, you work your way back to this point. That is probably one of the top bit of tips I would say when it comes to testing and fault finding, is doing it that way, because you're halving the number. So we've counted up all the number of points, so we just need to enter that in the certificate now, and then we need to do our insulation resistance test. So back on for the insulation resistance test. So we now need to get rid of that link. And we're basically doing exactly the same process as we did with the ring final. So it's a 999 result. And that's my earth to live. So earth to neutral, another 999, live to neutral, and another 999. So we now know that that circuit is safe to put back into the board and energize. And then we will do our RCD testing. So for our RCD testing, obviously need to energize the circuit. I'll put those on the right way around. And we've got our 180 degrees at 18.7, and we've got our 0 degrees at 8.3. So we need to record our highest results, and then that's that done. Okay, so firstly, I'd like to thank today's sponsor, which is Tradeify. So Tradeify is a job management software. Now we run our business by basically using Tradeify. We started off with the 14-day free trial, which the link will be in the description below. So make sure you go and do that. So for example, a classic example is this actual job. Now this job should have been a 2 to 3 week job max, but it ended up blowing up, as you can probably gather. Now, without having to go back into the office, I could sit in the van, go on my phone or my iPad, go through, amend the quote, send it to the client, and he can approve it there and then. The other side of things, that we do have some clients, not this particular client, but we have had some clients before, and I'm sure that you have, who are a little bit late on the payment side of things. Now, they have introduced a system called a payment reminder. So you can put in the frequency as much or as little as you want to give people a gentle nudge to say, hey, look, we've sent you an invoice, you're happy with the work, you do need to pay for it. We do not go into Asda and we do not load up our trolley and come back at a later date and just say, I'll pay you when I'm good and ready. So this is another feature which I think is actually a really good feature to use. Now, if you are a little bit of a technophobe and are a little bit worried about how to go about setting up Tradeify, the customer services are absolutely fantastic. There's also a load of YouTube videos that you can watch to make sure that you are going along the right path. Now, me personally, I've had to ring them a couple of times just to go through a few little bits, a few little tweaks and amendments which I was getting wrong. So, nice and straightforward. Honestly, it really has changed the way that we run our business. And I was chatting to the client a little bit earlier on, and he's had some other quotes for some landscaping stuff, and he is not sure because the quote that came through from them was not itemized, doesn't have a clue what he's actually paying this a very large amount of money for. So it has made him very wary. Where you're using Tradeify, it does mean you don't have to worry about any of that because you're very itemized. The customers know exactly what they're getting and what they're paying for. So thank you very much to Tradeify for sponsoring this video. If you like it, make sure you use the promo code GHAWK30. You'll get 30% off for the next 3 months. Right, thanks again.